Portland, Oregon, 7:23 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. The rain came down in sheets, the kind of Pacific Northwest downpour that turned the world gray and cold, and thunder rolled across the city as commuters rushed to their cars, umbrellas useless against the wind. In a Safeway parking lot on 82nd Avenue, and most people were too focused on staying dry to notice the small hand pressing against the inside of a beat-up minivan's window. But Thunder Mackenzie noticed everything, and Thunder was 52 years old, 28 years riding with the Hells Angels Portland chapter, and he'd learned a long time ago that survival meant paying attention to details other people missed. And he'd pulled into the parking lot to grab coffee before a long ride to Salem when he saw it. A child's handprint on the fog-up window of a white Honda Odyssey. Small and desperate. And it wasn't moving. He killed his bike's engine and walked closer. That's when he heard it through the rain. A child crying. No, two children. And one voice high and panicked. The other smaller, confused. Thunder approached the minivan and looked through the window. What he saw made his blood run cold, and two children in the back seat. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, with tangled red hair and freckles, shaking a woman in the driver's seat. "Mommy, please wake up." And Mommy. The woman wasn't moving. Her head was slumped against the steering wheel. Pale skin, blue lips. Next to the little girl was a little boy, maybe 4, and crying and clutching a stuffed dinosaur. "Sissy, why won't Mommy wake up?" If this opening grabbed you by the throat, drop a comment saying, "Wake up," and Thunder didn't hesitate. He tried the door. Locked. "Hey!" he shouted, pounding on the window. "Unlock the door! I'm here to help!" The little girl jumped, startled, and she looked at him through the rain-streaked glass. This massive man with a gray beard and soaking wet leather Hells Angels vest. Her eyes went wide with fear, but Thunder saw something else there too. Recognition that whoever this stranger was, he was paying attention when everyone else walked by. And, "Please," she mouthed through the glass. "Help my mommy." She reached forward and pressed the unlock button. Thunder yanked the door open. The smell hit him immediately, and vomit, and something chemical, sweet but wrong. He'd smelled it before. The woman in the driver's seat was in her early 30s. Thin, and wearing pajama pants and a stained hoodie. Her breathing was shallow, barely there. Her lips were turning blue. Classic opioid overdose. And, "How long has she been like this?" Thunder asked the little girl. "I don't know. We woke up and she wouldn't move. We've been trying to wake her for a long time. And is Mommy going to die?" The little girl's voice cracked on the last word, and Thunder pulled out his phone and dialed 911 with one hand while checking the woman's pulse with the other. Weak. Thready. She had minutes. 911. "And what's your emergency?" Safeway parking lot, 82nd and Division. Female, early 30s, opioid overdose. Two children in the vehicle. She's barely breathing. And I need paramedics now. "Sir, are you trained in first aid?" 20 years Marine Corps. "Yeah, I'm trained." "And how fast can you get here?" "Ambulance is 7 minutes out." "Oh, she doesn't have 7 minutes. Thunder looked at the little girl. "What's your name and sweetheart?" "Brooklyn. And this is my brother, Liam." "Okay. Brooklyn. I know that's a weird name, but that's what people call me. And your mom is very sick right now, but I'm gonna help her. I need you to be very brave. Can you do that?" Brooklyn nodded, tears streaming down her face, and Thunder turned his attention to the woman. He'd seen overdoses before. Lost brothers to them. He knew what he was dealing with. He tilted her head back, checked her airway, and still breathing, but barely. "Stay with me, because what Thunder does in the next 60 seconds will save this mother's life, and what happens after will change an entire family's future. But first, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment what city you're watching from. And now let's get back to the story." Thunder ran to his bike. In his saddlebag, he kept a small emergency kit, and inside was something he'd started carrying 2 years ago after losing his best friend to fentanyl. Naloxone. Narcan. The opioid overdose reversal drug. And he grabbed it and ran back to the minivan. "Brooklyn, cover your brother's eyes for a second, okay?" Brooklyn did as she was told, and holding Liam close while he cried into her shoulder. Thunder opened the Narcan package and administered the nasal spray into the woman's nostril. Then he waited, and 20 seconds, 30. "Nothing," he muttered. "Come on, fight." 45 seconds. The woman's body suddenly convulsed. She gasped, her eyes flying open, and she vomited over the side of the seat. She was breathing. Deep, ragged breaths. She was alive. "Mommy!" Brooklyn screamed. The woman blinked, confused, disoriented, and she looked around wildly, trying to understand where she was, what was happening. Brooklyn. Liam. Her voice was hoarse. You're okay, Thunder said firmly. And, you overdosed. I administered Narcan. Paramedics are on the way. Stay still. The woman's eyes focused on him, on the Hell's Angels patch, and on this bearded stranger kneeling next to her car in the rain. Who are you? Someone who was in the right place at the right time. If your heart is pounding right now, and hit that like button. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later, sirens cutting through the rain. Paramedics rushed over, took vitals, started an IV. Thunder stepped back and letting them work. But Brooklyn wouldn't let go of his hand. Don't leave, she whispered. And, please don't leave us. Thunder looked down at this little girl with red hair and desperate eyes. At her little brother still clutching his dinosaur, and at their mother being loaded onto a stretcher. I'm not going anywhere, kid. I promise. One of the paramedics, a woman in her 40s named Rosa, approached Thunder. And, you administered Narcan. Yeah, you saved her life. Another 3 minutes and she would have been gone. Rosa looked at the children. CPS is going to be called, and these kids can't go home alone with an overdose mother going to the hospital. They'll go into emergency foster care. How long does that take? Could be hours, and they'll have to wait here until a caseworker arrives, then get processed. Thunder looked at Brooklyn and Liam, both soaking wet, terrified, traumatized, and that's not happening, Thunder said. Rosa raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, I'll stay with them. Right here. Until someone comes, and they're not waiting alone in a parking lot. Sir, I appreciate what you did, but nothing. These kids just watched their mother almost die, and they've been sitting in that van trying to wake her up for God knows how long. They're not spending the next 3 hours in the rain with strangers walking by. I'll stay. And, you do what you need to do. Rosa studied him. Then she nodded. Okay. I'll let the hospital social worker know. The ambulance left with Brooklyn and Liam's mother, and the children stood in the rain with Thunder, both shivering. Thunder looked down at them. You guys hungry? Brooklyn nodded. Liam was too stunned to respond, and Thunder walked them to the Safeway entrance and into the store. He grabbed a cart. Pick out whatever you want. Breakfast, snacks, whatever. Really? Brooklyn asked. And, really? Go ahead. Brooklyn grabbed Liam's hand and they walked slowly through the aisles. Thunder watched as they picked out simple things, cereal, milk, bananas, and crackers. Nothing expensive, nothing extravagant. Like they were used to being careful. They sat in the Safeway cafe area. Thunder bought them hot chocolate and bagels, and Brooklyn ate slowly, mechanically. Liam didn't touch his food. Liam, Thunder said gently. You should eat something, buddy. Is Mommy going to die? Liam asked, and his voice was so small. So scared. Thunder had been shot at, stabbed, beaten, and survived more violence than most people could imagine. But this 4-year-old boy's question hit harder than any of it. No, buddy. Your mom is going to be okay. And the doctors are taking care of her right now. Promise. I promise. Brooklyn looked up at Thunder. This isn't the first time. Thunder's jaw clenched. And, what do you mean? Mommy gets sick like this sometimes. She takes medicine that makes her sleep really deep, and we can't wake her up. Last time, and she woke up on her own after a few hours. This time was worse. We were so scared. Brooklyn's voice broke and she started crying, and not the loud crying of a child throwing a tantrum. The quiet, exhausted crying of a kid who'd been scared for too long, and Thunder reached across the table and put his hand on hers. You did the right thing letting me help. You're a brave kid, Brooklyn. And you too, Liam. Both of you, and a woman in a blazer approached their table an hour later. Are you Brooklyn and Liam Fitzgerald? Brooklyn nodded. The woman looked at Thunder, and taking in the Hell's Angels vest, the tattoos, the beard. And you are Thunder Mackenzie, and I'm the one who called 911 and administered Narcan to their mother. I'm Valerie Chen, CPS social worker. Thank you for staying with them, and I'll take it from here. She looked at the children. Brooklyn, Liam, I'm going to take you somewhere safe while your mom gets better. Okay? No, Brooklyn shouted. And I want to stay with Thunder. Valerie blinked. Sweetheart, you don't know this man. He saved Mommy. He promised he wouldn't leave. Please, and I don't want to go with strangers. Brooklyn was crying again. Liam started crying too, hiding behind Thunder's leg. Thunder looked at Valerie, and, can I talk to you for a second? Privately. They stepped away from the table. I know how this looks, Thunder said. Big scary biker traumatized kids, but they trust me. They've been through hell this morning. If you rip them away from the one person they feel safe with right now, you're going to traumatize them more. And, Mr. Mackenzie, I appreciate what you did, but I have protocols. These children need to be placed in emergency foster care. How long will that take? Finding a placement, and could be anywhere from a few hours to overnight. They'll stay at the CPS office until then. And what's that office like? Cold, sterile, and full of other crying kids and overworked staff. Thunder wasn't being cruel. He was being realistic. Valerie's expression told him he was right. And, I have an idea, Thunder said. Let me take them to visit their mother at the hospital. Let them see she's okay. Then if you still need to place them, they'll be calmer and easier transition. If this is making you feel something, hit that like button right now. Valerie hesitated, and, that's highly irregular. So is a stranger saving their mom's life in a parking lot. Come with us, supervise. I'm not trying to kidnap anyone, and I'm trying to help two scared kids. Valerie looked back at Brooklyn and Lime. Both were watching Thunder like he was their anchor. Like if he disappeared, they'd drown, and she made a decision. Fine. But I'm coming with you. And if their mother is stable, we discuss next steps. And they drove to Oregon Health and Science University Hospital in Valerie's car. Thunder rode behind them on his Harley. At the hospital, they were directed to the ICU, and Brooklyn and Liam's mother, whose name was Jessica Fitzgerald, was in a bed hooked up to IVs. She was awake but groggy. When she saw her children, she started crying, and, Brooklyn.
Liam, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. Brooklyn ran to her. Liam was more hesitant but followed. They climbed onto the bed and held their mother. And Thunder stood back, watching. Valerie stood next to him. This is the third time Jessica has overdosed in the last year, Valerie said quietly. The first two times, and the kids weren't present. This time they were. If she doesn't complete treatment, I'll have to recommend termination of parental rights. Thunder's jaw clenched, and, what's she addicted to? Fentanyl. Started with a prescription after car accident 3 years ago. Lost her job, lost her insurance, turned to street drugs. And classic story. Heartbreaking every time? What about the father? Not in the picture. Jessica's parents are both dead. No other family. If she loses custody, and those kids go into the system. Thunder walked over to Jessica's bed. Mrs. Fitzgerald. She looked up at him. You're the man who saved my life, and the paramedic told me. Yeah. But saving your life once doesn't mean much if you're going to throw it away again. Thunder's voice was firm but not cruel, and those kids were trying to wake you up for over an hour. They thought, do you understand what that does to a child? Jessica's face crumpled. I know, and I'm a terrible mother. You're a mother with an addiction. There's a difference. But you're out of chances. You know that, right? Jessica nodded, and CPS is going to take them. Not if you check into rehab. Today. Right, 90 days minimum. I can't afford rehab, and I can barely afford rent. Thunder pulled out his phone. He made a call. Razor, it's Thunder. I need a favor. That rehab facility the club helped fund last year, and Women's Recovery Project. Can you get someone a bed today?
No, she's got nothing. 2 kids. Yeah, thanks, brother.
He hung up. You have a bed. 90-day program. Free. And the Hells Angels fund it for situations like this. Jessica stared at him. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. I know your kids, and they deserve a mother who's alive and present. You want that. More than anything. Then you're going, today. Valerie here is going to help with the transition, and I'm going to check on you. Weekly. If you bail, if you relapse, if you give up, you're not just letting yourself down, and you're letting them down. Thunder pointed at Brooklyn and Liam. Can you live with that? No. Jessica whispered. Then don't. Over the next 3 hours, and everything moved fast. Jessica was medically cleared and transferred directly to Women's Recovery Project, a residential treatment facility in Beaverton, and Brooklyn and Liam were placed in temporary emergency foster care with a family Valerie knew well. A retired teacher named Margaret and her husband Paul. Good people, and Thunder met them. Made sure the kids would be safe. I'll be checking in, Thunder told Margaret. She smiled. I believe you will. Before Thunder left and Brooklyn hugged him. Will you visit us? Every week, I promise. You keep your promises, don't you?
Always.
Thunder rode home in the rain, exhausted. And he lived in a small house in southeast Portland, nothing fancy. Twice, had no kids of his own, and had spent most of his adult life in the Hells Angels. And his world was motorcycles, the club, and not much else. But as he pulled into his driveway, he couldn't stop thinking about Brooklyn's face, about Liam's question, and, is Mommy going to die? Thunder had saved Jessica's life, but what happened next would determine if that life was worth saving. True to his word, and Thunder visited Brooklyn and Liam every Saturday. Margaret and Paul's house was warm, filled with books and toys. The kids were adjusting. Slowly. Brooklyn was in therapy, and so was Liam. They talked about the trauma, about the fear, about watching their mother almost die. And every Saturday, Thunder showed up, and sometimes he brought the kids to the park. Sometimes they just played board games. Sometimes they talked. Do you think Mommy will get better? Brooklyn asked one day. And, I think she's trying really hard, Thunder said. And that's what matters. He also visited Jessica every Wednesday evening, and he rode to the Women's Recovery Project and sat in on family counseling sessions. Jessica was struggling. Detox was brutal. The cravings were worse. But she was fighting, and, I can't believe you keep coming, Jessica said one day. Why? Because I told your kids I'd check on you. And I keep my promises. But why do you care? Thunder thought about that. Because 20 years ago I had a brother in the club named Smoke. Best friend I ever had, and he got hooked on pain pills after a crash. I didn't pay attention. Didn't intervene. Found him dead in his apartment 3 months later. And I swore I'd never let that happen again if I could help it. If this is hitting you in the heart, and smash that like and comment, second chances. Jessica completed the 90-day program. Then she voluntarily stayed for another 60 days. Outpatient treatment, and job training, therapy. She got a job at a call center, found a small apartment, stayed clean. CPS monitored her closely, but Valerie was cautiously optimistic. And, she's doing the work, Valerie told Thunder. I've seen a lot of parents fail. Jessica's different. She's fighting. After 6 months, and Jessica was granted supervised visitation with Brooklyn and Liam. Thunder drove them to the visits. Every single one. The first visit was awkward. Brooklyn was hesitant and angry. Why should I trust you? She asked her mother. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You shouldn't, not yet. I have to earn that back. And I will. And every single day for the rest of my life, I will earn it back. Liam was less guarded. He climbed into his mother's lap and held her. I missed you, and Mommy. I missed you too, baby. So much. Over the next 3 months, this went from supervised to unsupervised, from a few hours to overnight. Jessica stayed clean, and passed every drug test. Showed up for every meeting. Did everything right. 9 months after the parking lot overdose, the family court judge made his ruling. Mrs. and Fitzgerald, I've reviewed your progress. Your compliance with treatment, your housing stability, your employment, and most importantly, your commitment to your children, and I'm restoring full custody. Jessica collapsed in the courtroom, sobbing. Brooklyn and Liam ran to her. They held each other and cried, and Thunder stood in the back of the courtroom watching. Valerie walked over to him. You did this. No, Thunder said. Jessica did this, and I just didn't let her do it alone. But Thunder's involvement didn't end. He became part of their lives. He helped Jessica move into a better apartment, and helped her buy a used car to replace the minivan she'd sold. Showed up at Brooklyn's school play. Taught Liam how to ride a bike. One evening, and Jessica invited Thunder over for dinner. It was simple. Spaghetti and garlic bread. But it was the first real home-cooked meal Thunder had eaten in months. And, Thunder, Jessica said after dinner, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life. You saved my kids. You saved my family. You did the hard part. Thunder said, and I just showed up. Brooklyn looked at him from across the table. Thunder, can I ask you something? Sure, kid. That day in the parking lot, and you could have just called 911 and left. Why didn't you? Thunder thought about that question. About Smoke. About all the people he'd lost over the years. And about all the times he'd walked away when he should have stayed. Because I've spent a lot of my life being the guy people cross the street to avoid. And I'm tired of it. And I'd rather be the guy people run toward when they need help. The Hells Angels Portland chapter heard about what Thunder did. At the next meeting, and his brothers approached him. Razor, a 45-year-old veteran with a shaved head and full beard, spoke first. Thunder, what you did for that family, and that's the kind of thing we should all be doing. I just helped one person, Thunder said. One person is enough. Another member, and a woman named Viper with purple streaks in her black hair said, "But what if we helped more?" Over the next hour, they talked about addiction in their community and about how many people were dying from overdoses. About how they could help, they created a program, Hell's Angels Harm Reduction Initiative, and they trained every member in Narcan administration, partnered with local nonprofits, distributed free Narcan kits at events, and funded 3 more beds at the Women's Recovery Project. Started a hotline for families struggling with addiction. In the first year, and Hell's Angels members administered Narcan and saved 43 lives. 43 people who got a second chance. 43 families that didn't lose someone. And it all started because Thunder Mackenzie noticed a small handprint on a fog-up window. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, smash like, and share this so more people hear about real heroes making real change. Drop a comment telling me which part hit you hardest. And 2 years after that rainy morning in the Safeway parking lot, Thunder got a call. "Thunder, it's Jessica, and Brooklyn wants to talk to you." Brooklyn's voice came on the line. "Thunder, I'm doing a project at school about heroes. Real heroes, not superheroes. And can I interview you?" "Kid, I'm not a hero." "Yes, you are. You're not a hero. You saved my mom. You saved our family. You didn't have to, but you did. And that's what heroes do." Thunder agreed to the interview. Brooklyn asked him questions for an hour. About why he helped. About what it means to be brave. And about second chances. Her final question was the hardest. "Do you think people can change?" Thunder thought about Jessica. About himself. And about all the Hell's Angels members now carrying Narcan and saving lives. "Yeah, kid. I do. I think people can change if someone believes in them enough to not walk away. And I think the scariest looking people sometimes become the biggest heroes. Because we know what it's like to need a second chance." Thunder still rides, and still wears his Hell's Angels patch, still lives by the club's code. But now he also keeps Narcan in his saddlebag, shows up at Brooklyn's soccer games, and helps Liam with homework, checks in on Jessica weekly, and every time he rides past that Safeway on 82nd Avenue, he thinks about that rainy morning, and about a small handprint on glass, about 2 terrified children and a mother who was dying, about the choice he made to stay instead of walk away, and because sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to ignore the handprint. One person who stops when everyone else keeps walking, and one person who keeps their promises. And that changes everything.